Welcome to the very first episode of Makeover Mondays. In today's episode, we'll be working with this bar chart that illustrates regional sales performance and measures it against plan. This chart is simple, it graphs the numbers, but we can make it much better. Now check that out. Let's review the before and after, then I'll demonstrate step by step how I recreated this design in Excel. There are a few things I don't like about this before version. The first thing is the color choice. So although it uses two different colors, one for each variable, it's using the blue for actuals and the orange for plan, I do think choosing a more subtle color for plan can help declutter this visual and allow the actuals to stand out a bit more. The second thing is there's too much white space. I think we can take better advantage of the space that we have within the chart. The third thing is it's not quickly digestible. So as a user, I'm going to need to spend some time trying to understand what's going on in that chart to extract the information that I would need to help me make decisions. The fourth thing is it's not insightful. So aside from mapping the data, it's not guiding me on what steps should I take next, or at least leaving me with an insight to react to. So with this after version, we address all these issues with the redesign. So with color, we toned down the variable plan and made it a light gray. This puts a higher emphasis on the actual number and at the same time still showing the plan number. We're also now using the space effectively and trying to minimize as much white space as we can. You can see how we expanded the bar chart. One of the biggest things here is that we made it digestible. So by overlapping the plan with the actuals and increasing the size of the plan, we're able to quickly illustrate the gap between actuals to plan. This makes it very easy for a user to read. As they look at it, they recognize that the more gray a specific region has, the bigger the gap to plan is. And then the fourth thing we addressed is making it insightful. So we've added the variance to plan on top of each region. You can quickly see what that percentage is on top of each bar chart. The second thing we did is we organized this chart in descending order based on that variance. And what that does is it pushes the user to the right side of the chart so they can focus on the regions with the biggest gap. So some other bonus things we did to help elevate this chart. One is decluttered. So we removed the grid lines and you notice we removed the axis. By adding the actual numbers to the bar chart, we don't necessarily need to show the axis since we have the number there. The second thing is you'll notice the title. So we are posing a question to solicit intrigue from the user. Instead of calling it what it is, which is very obvious, actuals to plan, why not take advantage of that real estate and try to guide the user on what to focus on. And we can easily do that with the title, which is what we did here. So now that you saw that, let me show you how I created this in Excel. This is the before. As a reminder, it's graphing actual sales and comparing to plan or budgeted sales across these 7 regions. And you can see how different this compares to the after. So in the before, if you're sharing this with, let's say, the head of sales, it's hard to assess where to prioritize his or her energy just by looking here. They can obviously always look back and dissect the numbers, but our job as data analysts is to provide the information in the most concise way possible, and this after chart does that well. So let's dive in and create this. This is the before. It's a pretty basic table. It has a column for plan, a column for actuals, and then a row for each of the details. And this is the standard chart that gets created in Excel. So for us to do it, let's create a brand new sheet and start from scratch. The first thing we want to do is bring in this data. Before we add the chart, we have some formatting to do. We want to change the format of these numbers to show in thousands. And we also want to add the variance because we pull that into the chart as well. To change the format of these numbers, highlight the range. You come over here to currency, you select more number formats. Right now we are using currency, but we want to select the custom option. And then if you scroll to the top, you'll find one that looks like this. What we need to do is adjust the positive and negative number by removing the underscore and parentheses, adding a comma and then a K. And then for the negative number, we want to add a column and add a K as well. So now that changed that into a nicer, cleaner format. And then to add the variance, it's a simple calculation. It is the actuals divided by the plan. And it's already in a percentage format, so we're good there. To drag it down, you simply double click the corner of the cell and it automatically carries that calculation to all the regions. So now let's add the chart. It's very simple. You highlight the range that you want to chart, you go into insert, and then in our case, let's see what the recommended chart gives us. This one looks like a good combo chart where it's using the actuals and plan on the primary axis and then the percentage on the secondary, so we can use this as the base. Let me make this bigger so you can see. Okay, so now this is where all the fun begins. The first thing we want to do is format the bars. So to do that, double click on one of the bars and that will pull up the format data pane. And what we want to do is overlap the two series together. So if you go down for series overlap, pull that all the way to 100%, so they are directly on top of each other. The next thing we want to do is to help remove some of this white space. We want to decrease the gap width between them just to fill up the chart a bit more. You can go to whatever percentage looks good to you. I'm good with this 32%. The next thing we want to do is change the colors for the bars. So select the actual series by selecting any of the orange bars. You come up to the format pane, click on that paint bucket, and go down and change that to whatever you like. I'm going to go with this dark blue. And then for the planned, just select that lighter blue. You're already in the format pane that you need, and then select a gray that you like light grays. I usually like light grays for planned or budgeted number because it makes it look like an empty bucket and we're filling it with the color, which is some of my weirdness, but it works. Now, if you remember in the after, the planned looked a little bit bigger. So we can't really do that. You can't have different sizes because they're both on the same axis. They're both using the primary axis, but there is a clever way you can get around that, and that is by adding a border to the planned bar. So select any of the planned numbers, then you go back to the paintbrush, and then under border it says automatic, so no, but let's select solid line, and you want to select the same color that you had, and then the width is where you're increasing the size by the width amount. So we want this a bit large. Let's do 15. See what that gives us. That looks good. And then you'll notice that it has, the outline is rounded. I am going to change that to cornered edges. So you do that by changing the join type. There you go. We're getting close. Now what we want to do is add the data labels. So to do that, let's do them individually. Let's start with actuals. Select one of the actuals bars, go to chart design, and then add chart element here. You want to add a data label. For the actuals, we had them on the inside base, so they're all the way in the bottom. And let's make them a little bit bigger and white so that they stand out. And see here, because we changed the formatting of the numbers in the table, they automatically are formatted in the thousands as well. Now let's do the same thing for the planned. Select a planned bar, go to chart design, add data label. Here we had them inside end, and then let's make them a bit bigger as well. And let's make them lighter too, since we want to put the emphasis on the actuals. So here's a medium colored gray. Now you'll notice that some of the planned numbers are in the blue, so it's hard to see. There's two things you can do about that. You'll have to adjust that manually, but you can either change the color of that one. So you select it, then you select it again, so it's just choosing that point. Then you change it to whatever color you want. The other thing you can do is select the actual number and then just drag it to an area where it's still legible. I like the first option, so I'll go ahead and match the color for that one as well. So the next thing we want to do is add the variance bar. Let me show you. Once we go to the after, you'll see that this variance bar here, it's displaying the variance number right on top of the bar. Now these are dynamic, so they change as the variance changes. It's not a static text box. So for example, if we go to West, we change the actuals from 68,000 to 40,000. You'll see that that changed automatically because it's pulling the data from here. So the way we are going to do this is also get creative with how we're showing this line graph here. So in order to show the variances on the top, we need to pull this line chart all the way to the top. And to do that, we have to expand the axis to show a really negative number so that it's pulling the positive numbers all the way to the top. To do that, you double select the axis, and then the minimum is 0, which is pretty standard, but you want to change this again to a super negative number, let's say negative 1,000. You'll see it change the upper part to a very large percentage. We don't need that. I think 200% is sufficient, so we change the maximum to 2. And you'll see that it pulled it to the top. So now to add the numbers, we do the same thing as we did adding the data labels here. You click on the line chart, you go to add chart element and add the data labels. We want them in the center. And now for some formatting, let us increase the size of the numbers. And then for the line chart, let's format it into a white color. So it essentially makes it look like it's not there. Okay, we're getting there. Now we want to format the axis. So unlike other BI tools where you can hide the axis here, you can't. If you delete it, it messes everything up. So let's undo that. Another tricky thing here is to decrease the size of this to as low as you can and change the color to white. Then it essentially disappears. So let's do the same thing for this one and change it to white. Now let's increase the size of the regions slightly. And then let's move the legend to the top to give us more space on the bottom. And then to avoid some of this white space, you click on the chart area, then you drag it down to as low as you can. To clean it up further, let's remove the grid lines. You click on the grid lines and then just hit delete. And then we want to give the chart some breathing room. So again, let's select the chart and drag this slightly down, and then increase the size of the chart. Let's add a chart title. And there you go. And now this is completely dynamic, as you saw, and it's also dynamic in how you sort it. So let's say you want to sort this by plan. You highlight your data, you come to sort, and then you want to do largest to smallest. There you go. Or you can do smallest to largest. And you can also sort it by any of these. If we want to sort it by variance, we highlight starting from the variance, you go to sort, largest to smallest, again, or smallest to largest. So there's a lot you can do with it, just like you can with any charts. But I think the simplicity of this makes it a little bit more user-friendly and encourages users to actually explore their data. Thank you for sticking to the end. I hope you found value in this. I do post these episodes every week, so don't forget to subscribe to get notified when the new one is up.